Is this thing on?
Your microphone looks fancier than mine.
No, listen, we don't really cut corners here.
What are you saying? Are you
I didn't
saying,
say anything. You're assuming. I
am I
don't like.
being sensitive?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. How the heck are
Michael
you?
Clark, what's up, man?
I'm good, Eric. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. I don't know why I just thought about this now. I always think about it at the end when I'm done recording these, and that is these ring lights are really hot.
Yeah, they are. And I thank God I don't have one on today.
No, you don't. I see that you don't. I'm in an office though where this time of day, and it's 4 o'clock Eastern as we shoot this. There's so much natural light coming through the windows that if I don't close the blinds and turn on that ring light, um, I'll look more washed out than I already look, and I look pretty washed out as it is.
Thank God you're on a blue wall.
Yeah, I was smart enough to paint this wall because it used to be gray, and that was a whole lot worse. I Look,
That's
thanks for jumping on. We've been talking about this for a long time. You and I have a unique well, I don't know if it's unique. Well, no, it is unique. It's only unique though because I'm old. And so here's what makes it unique. I met you when you really didn't know that much about this business, really. You got you got into this thing as part of a successful division at Primary
okay.
Residential Mortgage, PRMI, out of Maryland, and I got introduced to you because you were what was described to me at the time as an up and comer, as an up and coming kind of superstar, and
Yeah.
I I
Someone
know
love
you
it.
well enough to know that I'm not going to call you that, so I don't have to hear about it for the rest of my career. But I guess my
Right.
question is, I also know that before mortgage, this industry, you were and still are quite the golfer and an educator. So how does a golfer educator end up? What? How did this happen?
Yeah, I'm not positive. It's funny. I get that question a lot these days, and I don't know that I've created an elevator speech of how that has happened, so to speak. Um, I think for me, from a young age, my mom always talked to me about, she coined the phrase kind of the power of the network. And for me, coming to, I'm a Jersey transplant to Baltimore.
Okay.
Came down for college and kind of fell in love with this city that I now coin at the phrase, the underdog city. It's not New York, it's not Philadelphia, it's not DC. It's got a real grit grind to it. It's got an underdog feel, the chip on the shoulder. And so for me, that was always kind of the way that I grew up. That
And
was
for those that don't know, that we're talking Greater Baltimore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Baltimore
Yeah.
City. I mean, I came down in 2012 for college and then never left. So I've been here what I would consider kind of my adult life, from 18 to 30. And 12 years is crazy. It's a long time, but it feels like a blink at the same time. So how does somebody end up here? My answer usually is I don't know how I ended up here. But no, I left college, started in education. It was a private high school in town, and that obviously has a robust network. I think what I realized really quickly is that every situation you find yourselves in, there's a network to be tapped there and to be cultivated and to be genuinely in relationship with. And so for me, that's how I did it. It's how my mom and my father raised me, and then I started thinking about it that way. I'm like, oh wow, my high school has a network, and my college has a network, and my first job has a network, and you just start to kind of have conversations with people, and then the pandemic hit, and just like everybody's world got turned upside down, I had no interest in kind of doing the virtual education thing.
Hmm.
I had
Okay. Oh,
also
so I didn't know that. Is that really what started it for you that when things went virtual, which by the way, I have a 23-year-old son who got caught
yeah,
up in that in college, and that was very difficult for him as a student. I didn't know that was maybe one of the pivotal moments for you.
it was my mom again always says that bad things come in threes. I broke my leg that year. I lost somebody in my life really close to me, and then the pandemic hit, and I was like, well, maybe it's time, And so that was what 19 into 20, and the world shuts down March 13th, and I started kind of thinking like, all right, maybe this is my time to go. I'd finished my graduate work. And I said, maybe this is my time to kind of think around, look around, start having conversations about what people might see as some of my strengths and some of my weaknesses, many of my weaknesses. And so I just started talking about some people that were at the network, both my at my alma mater at Loyola, and then the high school I taught at, and kind of started to narrow it down, get a little bit further along in certain conversations, and then yeah, ended up at PRMI, and I've been here ever since. And it's been it's crazy to think that, but there's not as much golf as there once was, and but there is quite a lot of teaching still. I joke about that all the time. It's one of my like very big passions, and I think you can both learn and teach in this business every single day. So
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Do you miss do you miss educating, or do you feel like you really don't have to miss it because it's something that you just transferred that into something outside of the traditional classroom?
yeah, I miss it. There's no doubt about it. You know what I mean? I think I miss it every single day. Life was a little bit more what's the word? You knew you had an expectation of what every day was going to be. I think in the mortgage business and in the business world, you're playing a lot of defense sometimes than you are playing offense. But yeah, no, I miss it. I miss the kids. I joke too. Maybe I shouldn't say this. I think, it's like I used to be an educator of high school, males. Sometimes I feel like I'm the disciplinarian of you know,
Don't say
insert
it.
insert different insert different walk of life here. But no, I obviously I say that in jest and jokingly, but yeah, I mean, I think that it taught me a lot about how to deal with people, right? Because you're
Sure.
dealing with not only students, you're dealing with their parents, and you're dealing with, their outside of school activities, whether that be clubs, sports, things of that nature. You've got to be able to kind of communicate effectively, collaborate, have have group thought and independent thought. Think about how to collaborate with others and problem solve. I mean, it's just a different bubble, right? And now it's all those same core themes, just in a very different light.
I haven't thought about it until you were talking through it, but there's probably also value in you having gotten used to teaching in what is a relatively emotional environment in with a school-aged kid, and then their parents, who, by the way, I'm sure you would argue could be way more emotional than
Yeah,
even the students themselves. And in this case, in the industry that you now work in and that you serve and you lead
totally.
and educate, there's a lot of layers to this that are emotional. You have an emotional salesperson who's fighting for a commission. You
Yep.
have operation staff that's trying to protect the organization, sometimes with disagreements between sales and operations. You have a referral partner who's fighting for a commission and also to win for their customer. And then you have a
Yep.
customer who, unfortunately, falls in love with a physical thing that they want to be in, and there's lots of other scenarios too, whether you need to refinance to be able to have access to cash for something else. But you went from one emotional environment, education, to another educational emotional environment.
Totally. Like, it's funny. I joked about it the other day because I'm interviewing for some candidates for, loan officer assistants for some of the acquisitions we've done. And my first year freshmen, okay, at the school I taught at, are graduating college seniors this year, which I think is
How does that
crazy.
make you feel?
Right here, it makes me,
Right.
it's
That's mortgage. That's the
no, I
industry.
know. No, I know. And so I've gotten to converse and reconnect with a lot of good former students of mine that are kind of maybe applying for these roles or just looking for kind of direction on where they go for their first gig. And one of the things that I thought about the other day is I was talking to this kid that I just had an incredible relationship with. And I remember the day he walked in my office as a junior and goes, "My life is ruined. My life is ruined. I didn't do well on the SAT." And it's amazing. You talk about this high emotion of when you go back to that moment in your life, that's the biggest and most important thing in the world,
Right.
right? And then you fast forward to when you're 25, 30, starting a job, 45-year-old loan officer who's fighting for that commission against a bank. Like, it doesn't matter. That's the most important thing in the world. And then if you sat them down and you said to that same 45-year-old, "Hey, do you remember when you were 18 and you thought your life was over because you only got an 1100 on the SAT or whatever, and you weren't going to get into the college of your choice?" Again, I think those bubbles are really interesting to kind of, you talk about emotional. I use the phrase emotional roller coaster, right? And again, I've only been in this for 4.5 years, and we've gone from the highs highest of highs to what people across the industry are saying is the lowest of lows. And again, I think it's how you attack that every day. You know, if you I posted about it on LinkedIn recently, like misery loves company, right? If you associate yourself with just miserable negativity every single day, and by the way, it's out there and you can find it every minute of every day, that's probably what you're going to end up in. As opposed to here's what the market is dictating me, here is the new normal, and I hate that phrase by the way, so edit that out. Here is
Not a
what it's
chance.
dictating to me. How can I attack that
Yeah.
successfully? And
Right.
again, I didn't know it at the time, and this is how you learn as an educator, right? I learned more being an educator than teaching. I claim they taught me more than I taught them, is what I say. I used that same phrase about you're gonna laugh at this moment, and sure enough, we got to laugh at about it the other day when he was trying to interview for a job with me. So it was just kind of cool.
Do you think that's hard to do with people that you work with within the division that you help lead when to many of them you're still the young guy? Is that a hard thing? I'm guessing it's easier now than it was 2, 3 years ago, but I'm curious
Yeah.
the evolution of you being able to be in a room and feel confident communicating what I just heard, which was your story's not written yet. It's in the process of being written. This is something you'll look back on. But I'm a lot older than you. Did it take you some time to figure out how to communicate that to folks that may say, "Hey, man, I've been in this business for 25 years. You don't need to tell me those stories."
No, yeah. I mean, maybe one of my, one of my maybe biggest doubting principles of myself, right, was always I found myself in a leadership role in maybe almost every stage of my life that maybe you wouldn't get um or be used to seeing, right? I think I was a youth leader, group leader when I was in sixth grade when you had to be in eighth grade to do it. You
Hmm.
know, I was leading high school retreats as a sophomore and junior when again you were supposed to be a senior to be able to do it. Same thing in college and obviously then in my professional world, both at the high school and here, like you. So yeah, I hear your question. I've always had self-doubt about it, but at the same time, I think if you again sit in that thought that you're not going to show up. I think for me, yeah, were there people both internally and externally that were like, who the heck are you? I mean, we talked about it actually the other night at a recruiting meeting. I brought our divisional executive team to a meeting and Margie, our head of regional underwriter, she looked at the individual whose wife was like, so Michael, tell me about like, how did you end up in this business? You're only 29, 30 years old. Like, and Margie says, yeah, I got to tell you, when he first arrived here, I was like, who is this? And what is he going to do for me? And she tells the evolution of that. And I think to me, really what that's all about is how can you build real, authentic, genuine relationship with people? Number one, because you can't do anything if you don't have that. And then two, how can you interweave value into different areas of the business, right? Because to your point from the top of this, you're like, Michael, when I met you, you didn't know how to spell mortgage. I know that's what you really wanted to say. Um, but it's the truth. I didn't know anything about it other than the fact that I had one due on the first of every month. I mean,
Right.
seriously.
Right.
So I think, again, not to interweave kind of the educator world and the student, I just tried to become a student of the game. Like I love reading about this business and I hate to read. I love collaborating and hearing from competitors or other thought leaders or other industry experts, mainly on LinkedIn. I have people that I talk to on a very regular basis who have become confidants that we just shoot the shit, so to speak, and are sharing not war stories but sharing what they're dealing with and how they're overcoming objectives for the people that they're leading. Yeah, we're competitors, but again, I don't think that this industry has set up a bad rep as it pertains to recruiting, which is how I got into this business. It's like what I'm trying to get from you, and I'm trying to steal you from that company and sign you into something long term and hold you hostage. That's not what we're about. And I think I've just tried to surround myself with other people around this business that work for other companies that just do it and philosophize it the same way that I do. See it in the same philosophy. I know I just made up a word, so edit that out too.
I think that's probably so many things get added to Webster's every year that might actually be in Webster's. I was having a conversation with someone recently, and they were feeling some emotion about taking a recruiting call. And we've built a we've built a business development technology platform. That's what Model
Yeah.
Match is. And I know Model Match, but early in my career, I that's what I did all day. I recruited. I see things a little differently, and you just hit on something that I 100% believe in, and that's the value of collaboration and mentorship and brainstorming and masterminding. And you can't always do that with people that are on your team. For you to learn, you need to venture out
Yeah.
and have those same conversations with others. And so this was, I don't remember if this was a loan officer or a producing manager. It really doesn't matter. But it wasn't an owner of a company. It wasn't the president of a company. It wasn't the CEO of a company. And I made a comment to this person and I said, do you think that executives, owners, don't have these conversations with each other? They
Right.
do. They do.
Yeah.
They sign mutual NDAs, and it's a little bit different, but they do collaborate. I mean, heck, there's companies that we're aware of, benchmarking companies that you sign a contract, nothing leaves the room, and you sit in the room and you have you have sort of an arbiter of this conversation, and you share confidential thoughts. But outside of that, there's an informal way to do it as well. Whether you make a move or not, you owe it to yourself, your team, and your referral partners and their customers to understand this business backwards and forwards. And you can't do it by reading a book. You have to have those conversations. So I know you see the value in that. The other thing you made me think of was, I don't remember which book it was. Malcolm Gladwell. I think it was Tipping Point. Did you read those books? Malcolm Gladwell's books? Okay. I know you don't like to read. I actually
I
don't.
told you I hate to read.
Yeah, I don't really like to read either, but there's certain books that I love, and Gladwell is one of them. And he talks about the 10,000 hour rule. Have you ever heard of the 10,000 hour rule?
Nope.
The 10,000 hour rule is this concept that if you spend 10,000 hours doing something, that once you hit that point, you are an expert. It takes this many hours
Exactly.
to become okay.
Yep.
Well, here's what I've figured out with the 10,000 hour rule. I think part of that isn't just being smarter from a book perspective. It's not the ability to pass a test. Um, it's that you're accepted by the best of the best in that particular industry because you've just been around long enough.
Yeah.
You've been in the room, you've shown up every day through good times and bad times. And look, I notice that I'm invited into rooms now that I don't think I belong in relative to intellect, but I do think I belong in relative to grit. Like I definitely do think I belong there. When I ask you about that question relative to your age, and I only say this because I know you don't mind having this conversation,
Sure.
is
Yeah.
that I know you have the grit, I know you have the intelligence, but you also have to overcome that first thing. And it's cool to hear you tell that story. How do you react to the title next gen, like next gen mortgage banker? You probably hate that, but that is who you are. So I'm curious with that title, what does that mean if that's who you are?
Yeah, I'm a goal setter, right? And I like checkpoints about those goals, set goals, right? And so like in any one of my posts online, I always put the hashtag RT2B, right? And that stands for the road to 2 billion, right? That's where I'd like to be, right? I do it a little subtly, and I know I just said it to people, but like it's something that we talk about internally here all the time. It's in almost any and every communication division wide. And so that's what our goal is. And it's by a certain date and a certain time over the next couple of quarters and years. And I think that we're well on our way to doing that. To answer the question that you said about next gen, I think I got into this business. I think I got into teaching. I think this is kind of just inherently in me. I just want to disrupt. I'm a disruptor. Like that's what I love to do. This business needs more people who are just going to think about it a little bit differently. The old aged thinking, and I don't mean that by an age specific. I'm not
I
talking about
understand. Yep.
the way the industry has been and evolved over the last, again, student of the game, 24 years is very different than where it is right now. And so you can't be thinking about it the same way that you thought about it in 2000, whether you were 20 at that time or you were 50 at that time. It doesn't matter what age you were. In order to remain both relevant and successful, you've got to be talking about, thinking about, implementing the next step. You talk about next gen. So again, I used to run sales. I used to run sales calls for the young, youthful people, and I mean that by age, that I would hire as an LOAs to the business of these producers when we went through COVID 20 and 21. I think I hired or was a part of hiring 70 plus people to the division. And luckily, because I think we did it the right way, we have yet to lay any of those people off,
Mm.
because we weren't the company that went out and instead of hiring 70, we hired 130 just to manage the volume and then once it turned, get rid of it. And so again, I believe in sustainable business. And I think that's maybe something that I bring to the table that I struggle to find a lot of that in the business when I talk to peers and others in the business, because again, I think you have people who have the grit, the grind, and the ability to outwork anybody in the room, but they may not have the acumen to run a business or manage people or do all these things. And so for me, I saw that as a potential thing I could add value to at the very beginning of my career in mortgage, just as an industry standpoint. And I was like, how do I start inserting myself into those conversations, or how to help get a person from A to B? And again, I give my mom a lot of that credit, and my dad. My dad was in sales, my mom's in HR. So for me, I heard and I grew up around a lot of those conversations about PIPs. Mortgage people have no idea what PIPs are. That's not a thing in this business, really, I don't think. Uh,
So here's what's funny. I'm listening to you talk and I'm thinking there was a gap somewhere because KPIs and PIPs, the MBOs, those things meant something when I first started off
right.
in
Yeah.
the industry. And then maybe it got a little too easy to do loans and make a pretty darn good living
Yeah.
off
Yeah.
doing,
Very. Yeah.
you could be an average originator and make a lot of money that maybe we got away from. It feels like what I'm hearing from you is that it's a bit of bringing back the old school, but in a next gen sort of
I
way.
love that you talked about that. For me, my line now to when I recruit or when I develop or I have these meetings for, and we're doing a ton of M&A, I've kind of shifted my role to the kind of the merger and acquisition world as opposed to just business development or talent acquisition or recruiting of just loan officers. We do it as well, but I said to somebody the other day, and they were like, "You should trademark that." And I was like, somebody probably said it, and we're all some of what we've heard, right?"
Sure.
I said, my favorite thing to do is to take industry tenure and put a new world spin on it. Find the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed kid, right? Which is what I was when I got into this business, I think 25 years old. I think that's still a kid if you think about it. But all these kids getting into the business. This kid that I just interviewed, he's 21, 22 years old. He wants to get into the mortgage business. I wanted to tell him, run, run, run for the. No, obviously I'm kidding, but I looked at him and I said, okay, how can I pair this 22-year-old, energetic, ready to go, willing to learn, be a sponge? I know his work ethic. He was an athlete, and put him with a 20 plus year originator, 15 plus year originator in the business and watch magic happen.
Yeah.
Because again, I hate the what millennials get and the Gen Zers get as they just want to what it's not who I fall into. You've got to value where this industry came from, which is on the backs of the people that have been doing this 15, 20, 25, 30 years, that are 40, 50, 60-year-old originators. I'm a data geek, right? I know, being a partner in business together in the company, with Pulse and all that, I love data. And I think the average age of a loan officer 10 years ago was 10 years younger than it is now. I know we've kind of gotten a little bit better with what we influxed in COVID, but some of those people have gotten out of the business because they didn't
Right.
maybe do it the right way. So I'm really interested to see that metric in 2024 and 5, because the industry needs to get younger, not because that means we need to kick out all the old people, the people that have been in it a long time. Not what I mean. We need to make sure that we're pairing both the acumen and the tenure and the longevity and the tutelage is the word I love to use. The tutelage of these originators and mirror them to people that are like, God, I hear what you're saying, and I want to do this, this, and this. We're not flipping the business upside down, just tweak it a little bit, and you can watch incredible stuff happen, and it's cool.
I
What do you
love
think?
how you just did this with your hands as if you're the mad scientist. That was
I'm
a
not.
perfect way,
Yeah,
the
no.
perfect way to end that. Look, I love what you just put out because a question, but then it brings up a thought, which is you also have to be aware enough of who you're partnering that young LOA with, because if you're partnering them with, and I'll use the my family's Yiddish language here, you know, an old curmudgeon or something along those lines, well, then the where there really is magic is where the originator or the manager that's been doing this for 30 years learns something new, and you're both feeding off of each other. Along those lines, you know, you talk about being a kind of a data nerd and you love getting into the weeds. How are you finding that data and market intelligence is helping enhance that sort of next gen philosophy?
I remember the first time I ever met you. You got on, I think it wasn't in a business sense, so that was good. Then the second time I met you, I suppose, we got on a call like this, and it was virtual, and you shared your screen, and I think my jaw like hit the ground, right? Because you put a software to something that my brain was like, how do I build this out? I'm not smart enough to do that. I'm not I can't go invest the capital to go and do that. I always joke with people that in my next life I'll build a one-stop suite for mortgage, insurance, title, and real estate, right?
Right.
Wish I could do that, 40 years ago. We'd be on a beach somewhere. But the point
No
I'm trying to
kidding.
make is I sat there young in this business and I said, data is what's going to drive the industry forward in the next 20 to 30 years. It just is. It's happening across any business platform, quite frankly. And so what you guys have done and been able to partner with both in the CRM functionality and now obviously what you launched to us earlier this year in Pulse, to your question, data, market intelligence, just being prepared, I think, for a call goes way further than the cold call text message of, hey, it's so and so from this company, would love to chat with you about all these things we do better than your company, or nobody cares about any of that I'm hearing. I mean, again, as an industry nerd, I ask people, why did you move? Like, I ask people if it should leave PRMI nationally or here locally. Luckily, we don't have a lot of it at this company, but if if we do, why'd you leave? What was attractive about the next spot? You said something earlier that struck me. I always say to people, you're driving the bus in this conversation with me, not me. You
Mhm.
will never get from me like, hey, I'm ready to shove an offer down your throat. Not going to happen. You have to make sure that the due diligence period you do, and unfortunately in this business, people just they go for these shiny red balls, and then
Right.
they're really bad spot. And I hate talking to those people because I feel so bad that they got bamboozled by somebody, or they were led to believe something that just wasn't the truth, so to speak. You have to be making the decisions that are best for you, your business, and your family, and you can make up the order, whatever one. But those are the three things that you have to do when making a decision about anything in your life, let alone making a change in this industry. And again, to be able to have the information about their business and themselves is great. We will go a step further. You talk about books. Our VP of marketing and human resources, Laura Nagel, she talks all the time about this book, Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara.
Mhm.
And she actually, after every recruit meeting or opportunity, she goes and she does what she's really good at, goes online, connects with them on something, maybe not even because some people are so public or whatever, and she'll find something that matters to these people and then she'll send them something.
I
And
love
you'll
that.
be amazed about how many times somebody calls me and goes, dude, how'd you know that I liked you know, whatever, and I'm like, usually I'm like, wait, what? What are you talking about?
Right.
Because so inherent to her, it's like literally something she just does. It's part of her makeup in essence of who she is as a human being. And that book she told a branch manager meeting about, and we've all read it, and I'm like, holy cow, like if you could just go that one step further for people, there's genuine relationship. I feel like this industry recruiting gets a bad name. I literally posted about it, I think it was yesterday. I
Yep.
hate telling people that I used to or once was a recruiter because people are like, oh, you're a recruiter, you're calling on behalf. I'm sure you get this all the time, right? You and your team. No, that's not even close to what I know you guys are all about. And it's certainly not what we're all about, which is, I think, one of the reasons we're great partners. But you've got to build the relationship first because again, if you're able to do that when business goes south or you have issues or there's adversity or there's a problem that needs solving, you can remind yourself that you're human beings in a relationship first before just boss employee, colleague to colleague, um, referral partner to
Right.
client. I mean, these are not transactions. I know that they are, but that's not how we treat them.
No, and they impact people's lives. So your thoughts around data and market
Yeah.
intelligence really fits in perfectly with what you were saying about putting a young LOA with a veteran originator that's been doing this. What data what data does is it gives you a new look on something that was always there. So that older originator or me, when I was building relationships before I had access to LinkedIn or before I had access to data, market intelligence, purchase to refi, product mix, volume, source of business, who they're selling their loans to, transaction details, who is the agent on the other side, buy side, list side, who was the buyer, the seller. There's so much information now. Back then, the only muscle you could build was the muscle of building trust. And so you had to get to know somebody, get them to like you, vice versa, and ultimately build trust. What data does, and what I'm hearing you say now, is that if you combine that old school skill of relationship building, which by the way, a lot of that is just asking questions and listening. Just shut your mouth and listen to the things that are most important. But combine that with data and market intelligence so you can get that much closer to the person that you can create value for because you can see it in the data, you can see it in the market intelligence. It gives you a cheat sheet of what to talk about. And by the way, you and I, when I first met you, one of the things we talked about a lot was understanding your core competencies and your value proposition. Well, there's actually a sneaky reason why that's important. It's not because you should know, because come on, you should know, right?
Right.
Somebody asks you what LOS are you using, you ought to be able to freaking answer the question. But there's another side to that. It creates confidence
Yeah.
so that when you're getting ready to have that interaction, if you already feel like you know the answers to the questions, you have a lot more confidence. You come across much, much more different. And I think what I'm hearing from you that I've really never thought of is that data and market intelligence combined with the old school blocking and tackling, it's not one or the other. The two combined is really where the magic lives.
Totally. I mean, you think about take this outside of this business. I'm a big sports guy. You think about Moneyball, right? You think about all these things where analytics and data and statistical analysis, people were like, no way, no way. I don't want it. I don't need it. What do you see on any sports channel that you see? Now you're talking about betting. You can't watch a sporting event without talking about, sports betting,
It's
but
normal now.
there's statistics in that as well. But you talk about any and every national televised game, they're talking about 3-point percentage and this and that and OP, like everything, OPS and on base, it's crazy. And I think you talk about it, it's culture shift, right? You talk about if this was something that we talked about 20 years ago, people would laugh at you. I'm sure people laughed at you along the way as you built the company that you sit and lead. But I think again, I go back to the word disruptor. I think if you can disrupt the market, again, most times disrupt has a negative connotation. I don't use it as such. If
Mm-mm.
you can go and be a market disruptor, you're making noise for the right reason, as long as your heart's in the right place. I know that this division is making a heck of a lot of noise, and it's all for the right reasons. And there's nothing better, to your point, about knowing a little bit something before you walk into those meetings. I have watched originators' brains go nuts when I show them the software or I show them what I have the ability to tackle and the way, not only the way that you provide me the data, but Then the way that our internal team says, all right, now we're going to look at it through the lens that Michael has talked about looking at it, and now we're going to build something out internally. And then you and me collaborate on that. And you're like, actually, wait a couple of weeks because we've got that coming. And like we're always on that length because again, I do believe we sit here on Tuesday, April the 9th at 4:45 p.m. I guarantee you we'll be here on April 9th of 2040. And where is data going to be at that point? And if you didn't get on the bus, I believe today you may be out of a seat.
You're
Um,
yeah, you're already falling behind, and you're proof of that in the way that you entered this business and put fresh eyes on what worked because it was proven concept, but what could work with greater efficiency through data, through market intelligence, through technology, and through bringing back things that had gotten left on the cutting room floor at some point, which were things like performance improvement plans and KPIs and measurement, so that when we have these conversations, it's just data. It's not emotional. This is what's working. This is what isn't working. Hey, before we break, well, I have a question, but before I ask that question, anything we didn't talk about that you want to talk about?
no, I don't want to put you on the spot. No, not at all.
Wait, put me on the spot. Let's go.
Just, every time I'm in the Carolinas, I don't get to see you in person. You're always so busy and things of that nature. So
Do we want to tell the true story?
no, no, I don't. No, I don't. No, I don't. Yeah, no, I did
Okay, well,
bail.
anybody watching this by your reaction knows that that was
Yeah,
a
it was
bit.
on me. It was on me. It was on
um, okay, something I probably won't do with you when we do see each other is play golf. So what is just because I love asking this question, what's your handicap?
Yeah, scratch. Yeah, like I enjoy the game.
How many cars have you won?
Couple.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't take your recruits golfing, right? Because that wouldn't work.
No, there was a time actually when I started maybe 2, 3 years ago, and when I transitioned into like solely development, that I was like, you know what I think I might do? And thinking about this, I'll just take the recruit golfing, and I'll play them for the business. But I don't think that that is very ethical or legal.
No, you would do that one time, and then the word would get out, and nobody would ever play with you again. When we do play, my money's staying in my pocket. Number one,
Yeah, yeah.
number two, I'm not only if I can learn something by watching you play, which I would because I'm horrible. So mortgage bankers that are watching, because so many mortgage bankers love golf and they think they're good. Now that they've heard this, Michael actually he
I
actually is
re-
good.
I got a good quick story for you. So I was down in South Carolina once, and we were playing, and one of the person that is close to me was talking about, talking me up, and he's so great at golf, and I was like, please stop. There's so many people way way better at golf. He's like, you know how many hole in ones he's got? And he tells them, and he's like, really? I said, yeah. I said, listen, if I make one today, you have to join. We were kind of at this stage of like they were kind of committed, but we were kind of solidifying the deal while we were down on that trip. Well, we're at the Muni. Okay. Greatest track in South Carolina, in my opinion. It's such a good course. And we cross over the road. We play the 10th. It's a par four. We cross over the next road, which is the cross street. And there's a tee box right before this par three. And everybody goes. And then I'm the last to tee off. And it takes one bounce, two bounces, and then we don't see it. Whatever. It is what it is. And the pin was like tucked behind. You couldn't see the hole anyway. So I'm like, okay, like looks good, but whatever. We ride up there. We're looking over the back of the green, blah, 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 blah. The recruit goes over to the hole and is like, holy sugar, like it freaks out. We take pictures and start drinking, whatever. That recruit never came forward.
Oh, what? I thought you were going to tell me you pulled the offer out right there, put it down on the green.
Talked
He
about
got
it
on his hands
for
and
for
knees and
eight.
signed the
We,
agreement.
we talked about it for 8 more holes. Had a great time. Enjoyed the dinner that evening. Made the offer. Got it accepted, and then the company came back at the 11th hour and kind of made an offer that they couldn't resist and that I couldn't blame them for. Because again, I always say, if you are making the best decision for you, your family, and your business, then I can't. What am I going to be upset about it? You know what I mean? So
Well, I love that you tell that story. Something that tells me that that person is telling that story from time to time as well.
yeah, yeah.
You're right.
I still we've collaborated a couple times, but yeah, no, they're still happy at their spot, and I love that because again, there's so many good places out there, and there's plenty of business to go around, and again, I think that we just need to have a little bit more grace for one another and some humility, and this business is not that hard. People make it hard. It's hard enough at the moment, but again, to your point about you can make a lot of money in this business and you can meet a lot of incredible people, but if you're rooted in anything but genuine relationship, you might struggle, because I think the new world order is people want to be treated the right way, they want to feel valued, they want to feel well compensated, and they want to feel like they have a seat at the table. And as long as you're providing those things, the RT2B is fast approaching.
Yeah, let's drop the mic on that. That's a great way to end this. Thanks for coming on the walk
Yeah,
podcast,
thanks for
Michael.
having me.
Next time I see you, we'll go for a real walk.
Yeah, I could use one these days.
We'll make it happen. It just might not be on the golf course. All right, brother. I'll talk to you later. Thanks for
Yeah,
coming
good
on.
to see you. Appreciate you.
But